here. My family has been the biggest support of anybody that I've ever come in contact with. Now, that story that we just heard made me think of a lot of things that had happened in my lifetime, in that I've had to break down a lot of barriers, and so I thought that I would start a little bit about talking about advocacy and how the advocacy has paid off in the long run to get where I am today. And one of the things that I learned from a very early age is that Tyler has to learn to speak for himself in terms of talking to people about what he needs and so on and so forth. My mother over there, Kim, is sitting at the same table where I was just sitting as we were listening to Gail. Mom I owe a lot of my thanks for my success to my mother. Mom taught for 33 years and retired the following Friday after I graduated high school. But one of the things that Mom has always done is she's always been there for little things that, little bumps in the road. The first time that I would say that Mom really went to bat for me is I was mainstreamed in the kindergarten class at a small school. And when I was I think it was 4th grade, over the time, there were several instances before this, but when Al was reading that story about the special needs child, made me think about how when I was in 4th grade, there was a principal at the school that had supposedly heard from parents about the way that it took me a little bit longer to finish my assignments, and so they thought that I should be put in what they called a special education room. And my lowest grade on the grading scale was a 96%. And my mother over there wanted her son to learn in the same class as everybody else, which of course these parents in that Easter story wanted their son to be learning also. And so Mom called together 26 people, ladies and gentlemen, 26 people, and every one of them said Tyler should be in the same class as all of his peers because that's how he learns. And from then on, when I heard that story, I said, well, Mom, I guess I kind of have to carry on what you just did there. And so anytime that I run into an obstacle, I try to speak up and not so much, cause an issue with people. I like to work things out peacefully. And so as time went on, I went on to be a Eagle Scout. And even today, I still remember, I can recite from memory the Scout, the oath, the law, and the Eagle Oath. For those of you wondering, the Eagle Oath is, I reaffirm my allegiance to the 3 promises of the Scout Oath. And then it goes on to say, I thoughtfully recognize the obligations and responsibilities of an Eagle Scout. On my honor, I will do my best to make my training an example. My rank and my influence count strongly for better scouting and better citizenship in my troop, in my community, and in my contact with other people. To this I pledge my sacred honor. And here today, I own my own business, a licensed massage therapist in Council Bluffs. I work out of my home, and I even today, I still use that eagle oath as the, some businesses, they sit down and make a business plan. Well, I never made a business plan. I said, look at what Scouts taught you and what God has taught you, and that's your business plan. You don't need to write anything down. So I wanted to start with that because I thought that several things, especially the portion there about the 26 people there advocating for that Tyler be in the same classroom, kind of went along with that the story that we just heard. Now, I have done a lot of different things in my short time here in the almost 25 years that I've been here on this earth. And I've done a lot of things. When I was 26 days old, my parents shared this story with me too. When I was 26 days old, ladies and gentlemen, they had to take me to several different doctors to finally find out that I was visually impaired. There was no one who could figure out what was exactly wrong with Tyler's eyes. And so they went ahead and they looked into my eyes, and this doctor figured out that I was visually impaired. Well, he came in and said, Kim, Gary, there's two things your son is never going to be able to do. And they said, well, what can he do? I don't understand. And the doctor said, well, the two things that your son is never going to be able to do are drive a car and fly an airplane. Well, when I was told about that story, there's one word that I got out of my vocabulary, and even though I was told about it in kindergarten, I guess I didn't get rid of that word fully until second grade. But there's one word that does not exist in my vocabulary. Can anyone guess what it is?
Never.
Never.
Can't. Can't is not a word that resides in my vocabulary because I've learned that the sky is the limit, friends. If you can't figure out what to do about it, pray about it.
Amen.
Ask God, God, what can I do about this? I'm going through this really tough time. Can you give me some guidance about what I should do? And to this day, there are two memories that stick out in my mind. When I was probably about 7 years old, we have a shed out at our home, and my dad pulls the truck in front of the shed, and he says, Tyler, I'm getting out of this pickup, and you're going to drive this thing. Well, sure enough, pretty soon he had me driving the truck in the shed. He'd stand outside, I don't know, maybe 5 feet away and say, straight, left, right, stop! and so in that regard, I was able to drive a car, and I used to back up to enclosed trailers for Dad while he, tightened everything down and so on and so forth. And then there was one time in my scouting career, and I have a lot of stories I can tell you about scouting. But the one that sticks out to me the most is when I was signing up for merit badges out of Camp Cedars there by Cedar Bluffs, Nebraska. I'm sure that some of you may have kids or grandkids or whatever that was in the scouting program, which I hope that you do, and you probably have gone out to Camp Cedars at some point. But one day I was signing up for merit badges I wanted to take that summer. One of them was aviation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but why would a blind boy sign up for aviation? One of the requirements was that Tyler had to fly an airplane on Friday or he didn't get his merit badge. Well, how was this blind boy going to do that? So there was a gentleman who was a flight instructor. His name was Spence, and he and I crawled into this airplane. Now, this is what the deal was. he must have increased his insurance because he let the blind boy sit in the pilot's seat. Anyway, and so there was another scout, Zach, who rode with me in the back seat of the plane, and so here we were. We were on. We started out from Wahoo, and we went up, and I don't exactly remember where we went, but I remember just being in my greatest delight. And so one of these days when I see that doctor, if I ever see that doctor again, I'm going to say, Dr. Tracy, you know, as much as I don't want to tell you this, I've done both of those things that you told me I couldn't. So one of when it comes back to scouting, I want to back up a little bit and return to that. But the first thing I want to say is I mentioned that can't is a word that does not belong in my vocabulary anymore, and I want to tell you how I learned that we need to get rid of that word. Braille has always been an important thing in my life, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Braille. And I have something that I'd like to share. But one day I was in second grade, and I had a teacher of the visually impaired who was responsible for coming and teaching me Braille and helping my para-educator adapt materials and things like that so that I could read. Well, there was always a thing that Tyler didn't read with his right hand. We need him to read with both hands, not just his left hand. Now, even today, I still read with my left hand. I don't know why I've never read with my right hand. I guess I'm just not coordinated on that side or something. But one day, I was sitting in the classroom trying to read with my right hand, and then I go back to my left hand when this teacher of the visually impaired was not working, or looking. Well, she didn't like that. My classroom teacher and my paraeducator were in the classroom visiting, and this was when all the other kids were at recess. Well, that teacher, the visually impaired, wanted me to read with my right hand so much that this is what she did. She came over, and I don't know what she had or what she made it out of, but she took my hand like this, and she tied me in a sling. And she looked over there at that teacher and said, "Oh, that poor little boy over there, he's got a broken arm." I'll never forget it. I'm laughing up here because I can just see that like it was yesterday. And I told her, I said, her name was Ruby, I said, "Ruby, untie this, please." And she said, "No, you're going to learn to read with your right hand." And I said, "Ruby, I can't do this." And she made the teacher and the paraeducator leave the room. And she looked me square in the eye, and granted, I don't see anything, but I didn't need vision that day. And she said, "Tyler, I'm going to tell you something. I only got I was supposed to only go to college 1 year. And you know what? When I was in school, we had a motto. You want to know what it was?" I said, "What?" And by this time, I was almost in tears. And she said, "A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits." And in this tone of voice, she said, "Which one do you want to be?" And she said, "I don't want you to think about it. I want to know now." And so from then on, I decided, well, Tyler's going to be a winner, not a quitter. And when I told her that, and she said, "Then you get rid of that word, can't. And I want to see you working a little bit harder on reading with your right hand." And to this day, I don't think Ruby's no longer with us, but boy, I tell you, I don't know if she'd be very happy that Tyler only reads with his left hand. So anyway, returning back to the scouting situation. When I crossed over from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, of course, you know, Mom and Dad couldn't go with you on the campouts anymore. You either went by yourself or you didn't go at all. And the first camp out, or when I crossed over from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, this is when I was in 5th grade, we had to sit down at a table. Dad went to the first meeting with me, and he sat down at a table with this guy by the name of Tom. And Tom said, was sitting reading our names off on the sheet for how many people, or you know, who was all there, or whatever else. Anyway, he got to my name, and he looked at me in front of all my other friends, and he said, "I don't think that this little blind boy is going to be able to do anything." Well, so a couple weeks later, we went on a camp out, and I was very hesitant to go. It was to the Little Sioux Scout Ranch, and oh, I tell you, I still love that place, and I'd give anything to go back. But one of the first activities we did in the morning was rifle shooting. And, you know, so we went out to a rifle range and we shot a .22. Oh, in this point in my lifetime, I was a very skinny little guy, so you know, I could still. Well, let me just say that when we went to the rifle range, Tom sat down and put me on his knee, and he said, "Tyler, I don't know how on earth you're going to be able to do this." And I said, "Tom, I'm going to do this." So we had a block of ammo over there, and he said, "Okay, put the first shell in the chamber." We had to shoot 5 shots. I went and I shot 5 rounds, and then I went out to grab my target. And anyway, I was counting the bullet holes. Tom put my hand on the bullet holes, and I counted. He said, "Tyler, I want you to count." Okay. I was counting in my head, and he said, "I want you to do it aloud." Well, okay, I'll count aloud then. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5! I made all 5 of those shots, you guys. And you know something? Guess how far one of the shells came from hitting the bullseye? An inch. From then on, I never had to worry about that. Tom thought that when Tom thought I couldn't do something, I think he had a different opinion too. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, you have to want to do those things. And that's one of my goals in life, is to remember that not everyone knows what visually impaired people are capable of. In this past year, in 2020, before the pandemic hit, I went on a trip with some more visually impaired people from Nebraska, and we went to Deadwood, South Dakota for a visually impaired and other disabilities but week-long get-together. It was called Ski for Light. And you had to, you know, it was like cross-country skiing, and it was just a good thing. And it was like everybody just really loved each other there. There was so much love in the air that I don't know how to explain it, but emotionally it was just so heartwarming. And we had the best time out there cross-country skiing. And there were several people that went to downhill also. They have several different types of skiing and things that you can do over there. And you know, I had a guide that was tremendous. You know, there was somebody that would ski right next to you, but it was you doing all the work. And on Thursday of that week, we had a race, and you had to match your own time. So basically you competed against yourself. Well, the banquet that night for the 1K trail, I was so excited when I got to bring home the 2nd place trophy for the men's division. And as I think about some of these things that I do, not only do I go to things like Ski for Light, but I also take some trips. I go down every once in a while and visit my uncle down in Georgia. And when that happens, I go, I get on the computer and I book my own flight and make my own arrangements, and off I go. In fact, this last time that I went, I used the transportation Lyft to get home. And every once in a while, I think that a good test is a good thing. So, I wanted to also talk a little bit here. I'm going to switch gears on everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the equipment here that I use. The first thing, and this is the thing that I have sitting in front of me right now, is called a Braille Sense. And they have different models of this Braille Sense. Right here is the newest one, but they are coming out with something else called the Braille Sense Polaris. And this Braille Sense Polaris, ladies and gentlemen, does a lot for me. It helps me take down all of my appointments for my business. I'm a licensed massage therapist, so people call and I book my own appointments, and it helps me write emails, and what else do I do with it? Well, I'll tell you, I have a Braille, what they call a Braille embosser at home that I hook this thing to, and if somebody like my great aunt sitting over there wants to come, you can say, well, Gail, at the end of the visit, you can say, would you like a Braille receipt? And I can come and I can write up the receipt, take it downstairs to my office, to my Braille printer, print one out on a hard copy piece of paper, and I can give it to the clients. And I just started doing that because I think that Braille is important. You know how many people these days in the visually impaired world choose to not learn Braille, ladies and gentlemen? I read Braille every day because it's a key to success. Now, as I talk about Braille here in the Braille Sense, and I have a manual Braille writer over here on the table, which is just basically does the same thing that the embosser does, only that I use it, and that's how you would think about handwriting things. But one of the things that same teacher, the visually impaired, that told me to get rid of the word can't, taught me, is that, Tyler, you have to learn the basics first. And I'd love to tell a story, but I know that we don't have a lot of time. So, and what she meant by that is, before you do the technology, which is this machine right here, you must learn how to do it on what we call the Perkins Brailler. And you have to learn how to braille on it because, let's face it, this machine right here is electronic. Technology might be here today, but it might not be here tomorrow. What happens if tomorrow I wake up and, whoops, I forgot to plug this machine in last night. What's Tyler going to do? Go downstairs, maybe the hard drive's out on his computer. Oops. Well, there is one machine that will not fail you. It's the Perkins Brailler. And you know, the sad part is that too many people in today's society are being taught how to use one of these machines before the Braille writer. And that is not a good thing. Because if you can't read hard copy Braille, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I don't want to walk into the wrong restroom. One of the other pieces of equipment that I use when I paid cash is an I-bill, And that machine there's a little spot in there for a bill to go in, and you push a button, and it tells you what denomination the bill is. It can either vibrate, it can beep, or it can speak it to you. And the makeup of the machine is very self-explanatory, but I do have one in my pocket here, sitting over at the other table. If after the presentation or the program here today, if you folks would like to look at it, we can do that. But I want to make sure that I visit with all of you first to make sure that we have enough time to cover things. But now, the other things that I can do with this machine is I can connect it. I have two iPhones that I use. One is my work phone, and then the other one is the personal phone. And I can connect this to my phones so that I can, let's say you send me a text, or Gail sends me a text or something, I can read it and I can type back to you. Now, it does read it does speak like my computer. I have a screen reader on that too, so I can email you from a regular computer like what you guys use also. But on the same token, I prefer to read because I have a magnet on my refrigerator at home that says read Braille every day, and I like to read Braille. So I just prefer to have it paired up with my cell phone so I can read the Braille instead. But anyway, now the last piece of technology that I wanted to tell you about, I am also, not only am I visually impaired, but I'm hearing impaired. And this past Wednesday, I had one of the greatest blessings. I mean, there was an angel that was just watching over me to make it a good experience. But the first thing I want to talk about is my hearing loss is not noise-induced. My hearing loss is an idiopathic issue, which means that the ENTs and things like that don't necessarily know what's going on with my hearing loss. However, I want to tell all of you that there's nothing that I can do to restore my hearing, but there is something I can do, and that's advocate and talk to people about hearing loss. And what I want to tell you all today is that if you ever see your grandkids or whatever with earbuds in their ears, please, 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 I cannot tell you enough. Please, and here again, I don't want to sound cold, but please take them away, because I've had to go through a lot of frustrating times with my hearing loss, and I don't wish that on anyone. There have been times where I've gone completely deaf in one of my left ear, and sometimes my right ear. And I always keep praying, and I fold my hands every time that happens, and I say, Lord, please, 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 let me have another day of hearing. And when I get up every day, if I can hear out of both ears, I thank the Lord I thank Him, and I say, God, thank you. Thank you for letting me have one more day of hearing. And this past Wednesday, I've used two sets of hearing aids, and the third set I got last Wednesday. And I was struggling. My other hearing aids were starting to fail, ladies and gentlemen. And Easter, when I was together with my family, was really, really hard. I missed so much. And Wednesday I was able to go in and I get these hearing aids, and they are a blessing. They put them on, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was all kind of tough because they're a new set. But friends, you don't realize how much you miss. And I've struggled a lot in the past years with some anxiety about my hearing loss and things. And there's one thing I have to say, is that these have made my world a lot easier. It's a blessing that, and this is the first big gathering I've been to with these, but it is a blessing that this morning I was able to sit somewhat, I was close to Janet over here, but I was kind of far away at the same time, and far enough away for, if I had my old hearing aids in, I wouldn't be able to hear her. And today it was a blessing that I was able to sit here and have a perfectly good conversation, and I didn't miss a word. And if you guys are considering hearing aids, please take some time and do yourself a favor and at least go and try some. Try some, because it's you don't realize how much you miss until you get one that works really, really well for you. And I am so blessed that these allow me to put both of my phones in the pair them up to the hearing aid. And I don't know, I'm going to have so I can demonstrate how much of a blessing this is. I'm going to have my mother, Kim, go out to the hallway and call me on my business phone, because I want to demonstrate. It is a blessing. For the past probably 3 years, I have not been able to have a conversation, and she is calling me right now. Now my phone's over there in my pocket. Watch this. Oops, I missed her. I hope she can call again. Oh, she is. Okay, so my phone's over there in my pocket. Watch this. Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Is your presentation going well?
Yeah, it is. It's going really well. So I'm right in the middle of the speech here, so I'm going to let you go. Okay. Now, friends, I want to tell you that my phone is sitting over there in my coat pocket and is all zipped up. There was no way with my other hearing aids that I would have been able to hear the phone even ring. And so my point here is that hearing loss can be a real frustration, but it doesn't have to be a barrier. And this is one thing that I'm learning now, is that sometimes you just have to use a sense of humor on vision and hearing loss. If somebody says, a sighted person over there, well, like I'm going to pick on my great Aunt Gail over here. If she was at my house and she said, Tyler, you don't have your hearing aids in, go put your hearing aids in. You know what? Don't look at it like, well, she's trying to, beat down on you. Just go ahead and say, well, okay, Gail, I'll go put my hearing aids in and you put your glasses on, so then we're equal, okay? And I do the same thing with vision. If I have a client at the house or whatever, and I accidentally maybe run into the banister or something, I say, my goodness, I gotta go get my glasses adjusted. You just have to laugh about it, and it's kind of be life. But ladies and gentlemen, I know that maybe I focused a little bit more on my hearing loss, a little bit more than the vision, but I just think it is so, so important for people to be able to hear, because up until here recently, it's been 3 years since I was able to go and have a conversation with somebody on the phone while we were riding in the car. And the other night, we took a little bit of a road trip, and I had a conversation with somebody all the way home. And then after the conversation was done and I went in and got ready for bed, I prayed and I thanked God. I said, God, thank you for just making these hearing aids so successful for me, because I never would have been able to do that before. And when it comes to business, I asked my client, one of my clients who's been seeing me for a long time, do you notice any difference with these? I just want to ask you because if I need to go get something tuned up, I know what to say. And she said, Tyler, this is the most alert I've ever seen you. And so I just can't tell you enough about that. When it comes to business, I go ahead and I always make sure that that you know I try to always hear people. And my licensed massage therapy clinic, ladies and gentlemen, is run by Tyler, and only Tyler. And my mother over there could, if I wanted her to, take my appointments, do my books, things like that. But when I was a little child, I was raised that, Tyler, you can't take the easy way out. You have to go out and you have to do something with your life. Don't let other people take care of your other things. You have to go and, if you're going to run this business, you have to do the books on your own. And you have to do these things, other responsibilities on your own. And I thank everybody today, my mother especially, for teaching me that. Lastly, I wanted to, I have a little couple of goodies for everyone. But one of my hobbies recently is Braille drawing. I've kind of gotten into Braille drawing here. I am going to go over and get something because I want to show everyone. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick on my great aunt here for a couple minutes, if you guys don't mind.
You take off your glasses first. You're going to use one of your blindfolds. This is clean, I promise it is.
All righty.
Just showing you where I'm at. Is that okay, Gail?
What's that? Okay.
Okay.
All right, Gail. This is, I'm going to set something down here. We had, I went ahead and do you want to hand it to her?
Sure.
Okay. I blindfolded Gail here, and Gail, I want you to tell me, what is that picture
Oh
of?
my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to do it the right direction. And it's only going to be the top part. This is the braille at the bottom. It has words.
Mhm.
There's something at the top.
There's a real test, I'm gonna tell you.
What is that picture of? Do you know?
No, not really, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll give you a hint. Only one hint. What did we celebrate here a couple weeks ago on Sunday? Think about what Easter, what is this picture might have to do with Easter?
Friday.
Good try. Oh, okay, gotcha, okay. Cross?
It's what?
The cross?
It is.
Okay.
It is a Braille cross. And on the bottom, you can take the blindfold off because now I want you to see. It is on a gold
Oh, wow.
piece of paper. It was brailled by hand, ladies and gentlemen. And on the bottom, it says, Jesus reigns.
Ooh, neat, that is neat, oh my goodness, yes.
And so I have one of these. I have an assortment of colors. I have one of these for each one of you here. And I also have a name card with your name braille, and I can help everybody interpret those. And if we have some other people that I didn't get the names braille, I will go ahead and I got my Perkins brailer here so I can braille your name. So anyway, the reason I wanted to blindfold Gail here to do this is because when I was in school, they would put a lot of tactile graphics in front of me. And just like Gail, I would have a really tough time going ahead and figuring those out. And so I'm glad that Gail was able to tell that that's a cross.
So they probably couldn't see what it is because they're far enough away, probably.
So anyway, but I guess at the end of the, when I think about this, the message here that I'd like to bring to all of you is continue to work on your relationship with God, because it is what helps you get through life each day. I've never given up on my relationship with Jesus, because he's really, really great. And when I saw the invitation and I read on there, Jesus reigns, that's what I wanted to put on the cross, because it's a good reminder of the sacrifice that Jesus made for us, so that people like me and you are here and can succeed and have a very special angel and God watching over us. Gail, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm here for questions, or if anyone wants to visit with me at the end of the program here, I'd love to talk to you. So I will, I don't know what the best way is to do this, but I will, I can read the names of the cards, and you can raise your hand and we can bring them to you, or how you want to do that. But in the end, I would like to just thank you guys so very, very much for the opportunity.
Tyler, one more thing to say.
Yes.
Tyler didn't tell any part of this, but he said he talked about driving a pickup or whatever. One time, I don't know what the occasion was, we were at his home that way, and he had a tractor that he likes to take people on rides, on a hay rack ride. So we're all supposed to get on his hay rack out here with bales of hay and whatever. So grandpas and grandmas and aunts and uncles and cousins and whatever all pop on the hay rack ride, and Tyler's going to drive. Of course, then his mom or dad or someone will sit on the side that way to help steer and whatever. So we're going through the one housing development not too far away. We get to the top of the hill, and we've got all these people on the hay rack ride, and his tractor is not working very well. And his dad didn't come along, so his dad can't figure out what's going on with the tractor. How did that all work out, Tyler?
Well, I think they came and Dad pulled me to the top of the hill with a log chain and pickup. And I think I drove home, didn't I? I don't know. I think it was a mechanical.
Oh, it might have been a
You always think you ran out of gas.
I think I did at one time, yes. But I didn't mention anything about the tractors, because I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about some of the equipment. But that is one of my hobbies, is antique tractors. So anybody that wants to talk about it, I'd love to talk to you about it.
And he also lines up tractor rides. How did that all work?
Yes, I do line up a ride every year, the first Saturday in August, for eyesight research at the University of Iowa. Each person come bring a tractor, and they pay $25 so that and then we put the money in and we send the University of Iowa, the Retinal Research Fund, a check for the donations, so that they can further their research. And friends, they are so close to curing my visual impairment. It is amazing. So, yes.
Very good, Tyler. Thank you for
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
These are the names.
He has name cards that were in braille.
Yes.
Each of you, as far as
Yep,
I knew you were
okay.
coming today, you get
So
one, and we'll take one later.
I'm going to read, can I read the names, and then I will raise your hand and we'll bring them to you?
Yeah, those, and then, do you want them to be like the marks up there?
Crosses on
Crosses,
the,
yes.
yeah, they can, if that works.
Is it okay if you guys just come in and choose whatever color you want? I've got, or not sorry, Tyler has green, blue, silver, and gold, so.
And these were all brailled by hand. They were not done on that braille embosser that I was telling you about. So anyway, The first name, and I don't know who's gonna hand these out, or,
You know what, it's okay, just go ahead.
okay. So raise your hand and we'll get this to you. Okay, the first one is Elaine Rodriguez. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. Monica Alexander?
She's not here.
Okay.
We'll get it to her though.
Okay.
Should I write it on the back?
How about Doris
And I'll
Alexander?
get them to both of those things.
Okay.
Wanted to be here, yeah.
Okay. Peggy Olson?
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. How about Mary Erteld?
Okay, I'll take
Is
those.
that the
Both of them, right there.
right word? Okay. Oh, do we have two Peggy Olsons?
Oh, I don't know, did you do two of them?
One is then Barney.
I may have.
If not, we'll get you.
Barney Olson?
There we go.
Okay. Leanna Jonason? Oh, Johansson, okay. All righty, perfect, there you go. Rhonda Gertis? Okay,
You get two because you get two.
all righty, perfect. Okay,
I wouldn't be.
Pastor Wombacher, are you here?
He's up there.
I know I shook your hand.
You know, if that's supposed to happen, Mr. Butler, you should bring them.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I'll bring over here.
Okay, Dr. Tanner Gates, are you here?
Okay, he's an eye doctor, Tyler, that when I mentioned to him, he thought maybe he might be able to come today, but we'll get this to him.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right. Jenny Buttermore.
She's up there too, she's the secretary, you met her earlier too.
Yes, I did. I remember meeting her.
Okay, Jenny.
Okay, Janet Buttermore.
And she's ready for this too.
Ready? Okay, now we got Pastor Buttermore.
There's more
Ready?
popcorn.
Bring that to me.
More popcorn and goodies, guys. But come and get it, because I'm gonna pick it up.
Gerald Busselman, I'm sorry. Joni Busselman, are you here? I know I shook your hand earlier.
I talked to you.
Okay, Gary Dorman,
Okay.
Ruth Dorman. Okay, appreciate you, the invite she sent out. Monty Stauffer. Here's somebody that everybody knows, Gail Johnson. Did I hear somebody say she's absent today? Okay, Becky Stauffer.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. You bet. Jerry McGill. Greta Seard, are you here?
Yes.
I know she is. I shook her hand earlier. Got it?
Tyler's actually giving Greta some back massages.
Yes.
Over the
Thank
retirement
you.
belly that he would go to those and do.
Oh, absolutely. Cornelia Lauterbach, are you here? I know I met you earlier. Okay. Renee McGill.
She's coming. Good job.
Thank you.
Al Pfeffer.
You want to do a reading for us?
Jeremy's in today.
And Linda, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And if there's anyone that I missed, I can braille the names, so.
Virginia, you probably have yours on it. You didn't get one, right? Get it. Get you one of those.
Did you guys didn't get one either?
Okay, and Tom, I tried to kind of figure out who was going to be here today, who wouldn't. Okay, Tom and Virginia.
Mark?
Okay, make
And
one
if you
for
stick
John.
around, Tyler will braille them very quickly for you, because we have the materials in all.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I can braille another.
Okay.
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 And then the crosses are up here, then two that way. If you have any questions for Tyler, feel free that you can come and talk to him that way or whatever in that regard too, so, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you again for this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen.
Wonderful massage. Oh, my goodness.
Wonderful.
Please come up and get your crosses, okay? Somebody has a question.
Oh, yes.
Who said Tyler? Somebody said
I said, Tyler, do you want something to eat? That's
I'm good, thank you.
okay. You're
Okay,
mom.
then more treats over here, coffee, water, whatever else. So feel free to get up and roll around. not
Yeah.
with each other, and just stay with them.
But I'm sitting here going.
Up here on the cross is for one for everybody that's here today, and if we run out, we'll make sure that you'll get one, okay? We'll send it to you.
Well, be sure you come back.
Then my daughter took that. Oh, I wish. Oh.